want to do this. Why? Awesome. Now my hair is gonna be a mess. Yeah. My tea is too hot. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. It has been so long since I recorded a video that this has gone back to feeling really awkward and uncomfortable. I don't even know what to do with my hands. Happy Monday. So I realize it has been a good 4 months probably since I last uploaded a video. But in my defense, I told you guys that I was gonna be bad at this from the very beginning because I know me and I know that I'm bad at stuff, like consistency. Okay, so I realize it's been a long time, you've missed a lot of things, maybe I'll update you on my life later, but for now, let's talk about this term, leap of faith. I hate that term, okay. Hate might be a little bit strong of a word. We'll go with strongly dislike. Like it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Reason being, I'm bad at it. I'm bad at taking those kinds of risks. You want me to jump out of a plane? Cool, I'm on board. You want me to go bungee jumping? Sweet, sign me up. You wanna go parasailing? Awesome. Literally go cliff diving? Pick a day, let's go. If you want me to risk something where my pride is going to be involved, no. Hard pass. Hard pass. Definite no. I like things to be certain. Here's the thing. When I make those physical kinds of risks, the worst case scenario is death. Which admittedly isn't great or whatever, but at least then I'm not alive to be embarrassed by it. If I fail, if I leap to the wrong thing, if I make the wrong decision, if I'm not good enough at that thing that I leap to, then I have to deal with those kinds of repercussions. I have to look my family in the face and tell them that I failed at something. I have to tell my friends that I didn't live up to the goals that I told them I was going to. I'm not a big fan of taking those kinds of risks. But here's the thing with taking a leap of faith. Let's picture it literally, shall we? Because I'm that person and I like to just drill metaphors into the ground until they die. I ruin all of the good things in life. Come on a journey with me through my mind. You are standing at the edge of a cliff. What else would you be leaping off of? You're standing at the edge of a cliff, and the general idea of a leap of faith is that there is something else that you are leaping to, right? Or something that you're leaping away from, or whatever. Either way, you've got to get off that cliff and on to something else, right? So, sometimes taking a leap of faith is a little bit easier. It's, less Grand Canyon, more hopping from the concrete onto the subway train. And sometimes it's a little bit harder. You have to take that blind leap of faith where you're just trusting that something is there to catch you when you leap. But here's why I'm bad at that. I can't guarantee that I'm gonna leap far enough. I can't guarantee that I'm leaping to the right thing. I can't guarantee that the ground is not going to fall out beneath me while I'm trying to leap, and then I'm gonna end up falling to my death. So I don't take those kinds of risks. And that has led to me being stuck in the same place for a while. Because that's just what I do. I'm not proud of it. I try to pretend like I'm this confident, brave, outgoing, going to conquer the world someday kind of person, but in reality, I'm kind of a chicken. But the beautiful thing about God is that he doesn't ever accept that excuse. He doesn't accept my being fearful as a reason to not call me to better things. As I recently discovered, there is a third scenario when it comes to these kinds of leaps. See, in certain special cases, as mine tend to be when it comes to the Lord, it becomes less leaping and more being pushed. Okay, now I'm not saying that the creator of the universe has found a new hobby of shoving people off of the side of mountains, but he will if he has to. And I made him. For years, I have been begging God to give me something to leap to. I've been begging him for that next opportunity, that next challenge, that next thing, and I am sure, 100% sure, that he has probably told me to move, and I didn't. He probably told me to go and to take this opportunity he laid out in front of me, and I didn't. And so, recently, an opportunity presented itself for me to move in this area of my life, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. And so when this opportunity came up, when I felt like I maybe heard that whisper of God telling me to jump, before I even thought about moving my feet, before I could give myself the chance to dig my toes deeper into that soil, I looked at God and I told him, okay, here's the thing. I'm a chicken. If you tell me to jump, I probably won't. So if you're telling me to jump, if you're telling me that it is time for me to take this leap, I'm gonna need you to make me. I'm going to need you to make it abundantly clear. Or I won't. I heard this comedian one time tell a story about his first time skydiving. And so he's telling this story about how he's in the plane and he's, strapped to the professional skydiver, and they get up to go, and he tries to tell the guy, no, I don't want to go anymore. I don't know, no, not for me. But the professional basically tells him that he doesn't have a choice, and they have to go when they have to go, because there are people behind them, there are people in front of them. There is a time that they need to jump out of the plane. And when it is time, the professional jumps out with this poor little comedian strapped to his chest. In these kinds of scenarios, if you find yourself in a similar scenario where you feel as though God has taken the leap for you, it's important to remember who you're strapped to. I think a lot of the time we use God as a parachute or a safety net. It'll be there to catch me. He'll be there to catch me, right? But God is so much more than that. He's not just your parachute. He is the professional who knows when to pull it. He's the professional who knows the proper time to jump out of the plane. He's the guide that pushes you off the side of the cliff if he has to, because he knows that it's time for you to go. And yeah, he'll catch you if he has to. But it's so important to remember that he's not just there at the bottom, he's there at the top too. So when he shoved me off of this cliff, I have to admit it, even though admittedly I'm a little bit nervous now, I was not afraid at the time. It wasn't even a thought in my mind. When he shoved me off of that cliff, I knew it was because I wasn't going to go, and he loved me enough to know that I have to. See, that's the thing. God doesn't need us to do the things he calls us to. He's God. He doesn't need you. I know. That's pretty counter our Christian culture of today, where we tell everybody like, God needs you to be a good disciple. He needs you to tell others about him. But he doesn't. He doesn't need you to. He loves you enough to involve you in his plans. He loves you enough to call you to something outside of yourself. He loves you enough to put you into this family and ask you to help him grow it. But he doesn't need you to. Trust me, he can find some other disciple to do it, or he could do it himself. But he wants you to do it. He wants you to fulfill the purpose that he's laid out for you. And he loves you enough to know when you think that you can't do it. And he loves you enough to know when you're wrong about that. See, that's the thing. I worship a God who knows me better than I know me, who loves me more than I love myself, and who gives me more grace than I give myself. The God that I worship has infinitely more confidence in me than I do. But I kind of have to trust him on it, right? I mean, he's God. He knows what he's doing. If he says jump, I want to jump. But I'm human, so sometimes I'm not going to. And look, God is not going to shove you off of some cliff that you're not ready to be shoved off of. He's not going to shove you off of a cliff that you don't want to be shoved off of. The reality of this situation is I gave God permission to shove me off the side of that cliff. And he did. At the proper time, in the proper way, with the proper parachute in place. I'm pretty sure. So, as it stands now, I could potentially be careening to my death, but it doesn't feel like it. So, if you find yourself at the edge of a cliff and you hear God telling you to jump, I'm not in a position to tell you to listen, but I am in a position to tell you to trust him. And to trust whatever it is that he decides to do. Maybe you're gutsy enough to jump. But if you're not, at least trust God enough to jump for you. Have a good week.